Right now, beneath the freezing, volcanic soil of Iceland, the Earth is doing something deeply terrifying. It is literally ripping itself apart. Every single year, this tiny island grows by about 2 centimeters. But it is not expanding gracefully. It is splitting down the middle, tearing open massive fissures, triggering silent earthquakes, and reshaping the map of our world in real time. This is a land caught in an eternal war between two cosmic forces. Absolute, primordial fire and crushing, ancient ice. Welcome to Blueprint Depth. Today, we peel back the layers of time and stone to look at the terrifying blueprint of the world's most geologically unstable island, and discover why its violent survival affects every single one of us. To truly understand what is happening here, we have to look at our planet from space, stripping away the oceans to reveal the raw architecture of the Earth. Our planet's crust isn't a solid, immovable shell. Instead, it is a giant, fractured puzzle of moving tectonic plates that float restlessly on a sea of molten rock. Down the exact center of the Atlantic Ocean lies a jagged, thousands of miles long scar known as the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. This is a massive, underwater mountain range where the North American plate and the Eurasian plate are locked in a slow-motion divorce, constantly pulling away from one another. Normally, this dark, volcanic boundary stays hidden miles beneath the crushing pressure of the ocean's surface, completely invisible to human eyes. But there is one exception. One single place on Earth where the violent upwelling of magma from the mantle was so aggressive, so relentlessly powerful, that the ocean floor rose higher and higher over millions of years until it finally breached the waves and became a country. That accidental country is Iceland. When you travel to Iceland and walk through the historic valley of Thingvellir National Park, you aren't just walking through a beautiful, moss-covered valley. You are literally standing in the no-man's land between North America and Europe. To your left stands the towering rock wall of the North American continental plate, to your right, the boundary of Eurasia. This is the only place on Earth where you can walk on dry land between two expanding continents. Because these two tectonic plates pull in opposite directions with an unforgiving, silent force, the ground underneath Iceland is under constant, unimaginable structural stress. The Earth's crust here stretches, bends, and thins until it simply cannot hold the tension anymore. And then, it snaps. This structural snapping creates thousands of micro-earthquakes every single year, fracturing the countryside and opening up deep, bottomless chasms across the landscape. Iceland isn't just a static piece of real estate, it is a dynamic, living geological experiment that refuses to stay still. It is a fragile island born from an ancient planetary scar, held together by sheer volcanic will, and waiting for the next shift in the tectonic blueprint. But the shifting crust and the tearing of the continental plates are only half of the story. To truly understand the volatile, unpredictable nature of this island, you have to look away from the deep chasms in the Earth and look up toward its frozen giants, the glaciers. Glaciers cover over 10% of Iceland's entire landmass, sitting like massive, heavy crowns on top of its highest mountain peaks. These are not just simple layers of snow and ice that melt away when the seasons change. These are monumental, ancient sheets of solid ice, thousands of feet thick, heavy enough to crush entire mountain ranges under their immense, gravitational weight. They are slow-moving rivers of frozen time, holding millions of tons of water captured from the atmosphere over thousands of years. Deep inside the dark, frozen bellies of these glaciers lies a hidden, almost alien world that few humans ever get to see. Every single winter, freezing meltwater submerge into the depths of the ice sheets, carving out breathtaking, crystal blue subterranean ice caves. Walking into one of these structures feels like stepping inside the ribcage of a frozen mythical beast. The ice above you is so intensely compressed that it absorbs all wavelengths of light except for a deep, luminous neon blue. But these caves are temporary, shifting blueprints of nature. They are living architectural anomalies. Because the glaciers are constantly moving and sliding, these magnificent caves exist for just a few short months. Every single year, old caves collapse, melt away into the summer rivers, and entirely new ones are violently carved out by the winter freeze. Today, however, these frozen giants are no longer just a beautiful wonder of the natural world. They are telling us a much darker, much more urgent story. Because of rapidly rising global temperatures, Iceland's ancient ice sheets are melting at an unprecedented, catastrophic speed that is actively shocking the scientific community. In the year 2014, scientists and locals gathered on top of a barren, rocky mountain to do something the world had never seen before. They held a funeral for a glacier. They officially declared the historic Okjökull glacier dead. It had lost so much of its frozen mass that it could no longer compress under its own weight, meaning it could no longer move. It had become a stagnant patch of ice. It was the very first Icelandic glacier to vanish entirely from the face of the earth, leaving behind a bronze plaque to warn future generations. As these massive ice sheets rapidly deteriorate, billions of tons of ancient water are unleashed every single day, carving violent new rivers through the black volcanic plains as they race out toward the freezing Atlantic Ocean. You can witness the poetic, haunting final stage of this process at Iceland's world-famous Diamond Beach. Here, massive blocks of ancient glacial ice break away from the dying ice caps, tumble into a tidal lagoon, and wash ashore on a coastline made entirely of pitch-black volcanic sand. These glowing, crystal-clear ice chunks sit on the dark shore like scattered diamonds, slowly dissolving into the crashing ocean waves until they completely disappear into nothingness. But when a multi-billion-ton glacier melts, it doesn't just change the scenery. It removes a massive physical weight from the crust, destabilizing the fragile equilibrium of the island and waking up the terrifying monster sleeping directly beneath the ice. You see, the immense, unfathomable weight of Iceland's glaciers does not just sit passively on the landscape. It acts like a giant, heavy physical lid on top of a violently boiling pot. Directly beneath these thick, freezing ice sheets lie some of the most volatile, active, and dangerous volcanic systems on the face of the planet. Under normal conditions, the sheer gravitational pressure of millions of tons of ice presses down on the Earth's crust, keeping the magma chambers deep below tightly compressed and relatively stable. But as the glaciers rapidly melt and that colossal weight is stripped away, the crust relaxes, expands, and fractures. The magma chambers are suddenly released from their confinement. It is a terrifying planetary paradox that defies common logic. On this island, the melting of the ice is the exact mechanism that triggers the fire. To understand just how catastrophic this volatile combination of ice, fire, and shifting tectonic plates can be, we have to look back into the dark pages of history, specifically to the catastrophic year of 1783. Deep within the isolated, desolate southern highlands of Iceland, a massive volcanic fissure known as Laki violently ripped open without warning. It was not a single mountain erupting. It was a jagged, 15-mile scar in the earth that began to bleed pure, molten rock. For 8 agonizing months, the Laki fissures poured out a staggering 14 cubic kilometers of lava, swallowing fields, burning rivers, and erasing entire landscapes. But it was not the red-hot lava that changed the course of human history, it was the invisible, toxic breath of the volcano. Laki pumped a catastrophic 120 million tons of sulfur dioxide directly into the Earth's atmosphere. A thick, bluish, poisonous sulfur fog rolled across the island, choking everything in its path. The toxic rain scorched the grass, poisoning the soil and contaminating the fresh water supplies with lethal amounts of fluorine. Within weeks, 80% of Iceland's sheep and half of its cattle dropped dead from starvation and poisoning. A horrific, systemic famine swept across the nation, wiping out nearly a quarter of Iceland's entire human population in a matter of months. But the deadly cloud did not stay isolated on the island. Driven by massive high-altitude wind currents, the toxic volcanic haze began to drift southward across the European continent. The thick, acrid fog blanketed Great Britain, Germany, and France, turning the sun into a blood-red circle in the sky and choking thousands of laborers in the fields. The volcanic pollution blocked out the sun's warmth, violently disrupting global weather patterns across the entire northern hemisphere. It caused an unnaturally suffocating, dry summer, followed immediately by one of the most brutal, freezing winters in European history. For years, the weather remained completely broken. Extreme droughts ruined harvests in France, while heavy floods and ice storms destroyed livestock in Great Britain. This widespread agricultural collapse, mass starvation, and absolute economic ruin created the exact desperate, chaotic conditions that drove the French peasantry to rise up against their king, sparking the historic French Revolution in 1789. A single volcanic crack on a remote island in the Atlantic Ocean had effectively reshaped the entire political blueprint of Western civilization. How, then, does a modern nation survive on an island that is actively trying to rip itself apart, freeze its inhabitants, and suffocate them with volcanic ash? The answer does not lie in fighting nature, but in completely mapping out a brilliant new architectural blueprint. For centuries, Iceland was one of the poorest, most isolated nations in Europe, constantly at the mercy of its hostile environment. But in the mid-20th century, Icelandic engineers, scientists, and visionaries decided to stop viewing their volatile geology as a death sentence, and instead, began viewing it as an infinite source of power. They learned to harvest the planet's raw rage. Today, a staggering 100% of Iceland's electricity and indoor heating comes entirely from domestic, renewable sources. By drilling deep, high-tech wells thousands of feet into the Earth's crust right next to active volcanic hot zones, engineers capture superheated, pressurized volcanic steam. This roaring steam is channeled into massive geothermal power plants to spin heavy turbines, generating clean electricity for the entire country. But the engineering genius does not stop there. The leftover, superheated water from this process is not wasted. It is pumped through an intricate network of heavily insulated pipes stretching across the country. This volcanic water runs directly underneath the concrete streets and sidewalks of the capital city, Reykjavik. During the brutal winter months, this system automatically melts away dangerous snow and ice from the pavements, entirely eliminating the need for snowplows or salt, and keeping the city moving. This same geothermal water is channeled straight into the radiators of almost every single home, school, and business in the country, providing cheap, endless, and reliable heating to citizens during freezing Arctic storms. What was once their greatest existential threat, the boiling magma chambers beneath their feet, has been successfully re-engineered into their greatest economic superpower. Iceland has built a society entirely synchronized with the heartbeat of a restless planet, showing the rest of the world that humanity does not need to conquer nature to thrive, we simply need to understand its design. Ultimately, Iceland stands as a beautiful, striking, and haunting monument to the Earth's raw, primordial power. It is a country that completely shatters our perception of the world we live on. It is an island born of conflict, violently shaped by ancient glaciers, continuously fueled by deep mantle plumes, and relentlessly pulled apart by the slow, unstoppable drift of global continents. It is a stark, visual reminder that our planet is not just a static, unmoving rock spinning aimlessly through the cold void of space. The Earth is a living, breathing, and changing machine. It is a complex system operating on a scale of time and power that completely dwarfs human civilization. Every crack in the Icelandic soil, every melting block of ice dissolving into the dark sands of Diamond Beach, and every puff of steam rising from its volcanic vents is a line of code in a grand planetary script. And as our global climate continues to shift, altering the fragile balance between the weight of the ice and the pressure of the fire beneath, the blueprint of this island will continue to mutate, warning us of the volatile shifts that lay ahead for the rest of our world. To look into the depths of Iceland is to look into the past, present, and future of geology itself. It is a place where humanity has successfully adapted to the most hostile terrain imaginable, rewriting our own blueprint for survival in the process. Thank you for embarking on this deep, cinematic journey into the hidden architecture of our planet. If you found yourself captivated by the incredible forces shaping our world, make sure to smash that like button, leave a comment below with your thoughts, and subscribe to Blueprint Depth for more high-stakes visual documentaries. Let us know down in the comments, would you ever dare to live on an island that is actively splitting in two? Thank you for watching, keep exploring the depths, and we will see you in the next Master Blueprint.